Here's your business podcast with Frank Furness.
You know, Ian, this is all real good stuff, but you know, there's still some people that I meet, and no matter, I'll try everything that you're speaking about. And have you got rapport with everyone that you meet? Because sometimes I meet people and I still walk away thinking, oh, you know what, I've tried so hard, but I'm not getting anywhere.
Well, the short answer is no. NLP is good. In fact, out of all of the sales things, and I think I've been through pretty much everything in the marketplace now, all of it has helped some. NLP has helped more than anything else I've tried. If I found anything else, I'd be teaching that and not NLP now. However, it doesn't work miracles. It doesn't raise the dead. It doesn't cure every ailment, although maybe it could. There's another debate about that. And not everybody who practices NLP is a billionaire, multi-billionaire. What I will say is that it increases closing ratios more than anything I've ever heard. So, to answer your question, Frank, do I get rapport with everybody all the time? No. That's not the critical thing, though. The critical thing is that I increase the number of people dramatically. I'd say if you were to compare me now with me, how many years have I been doing NLP now? 14 years at the last count. I close 2 to 3 to 4x the number of deals in the same amount of time using NLP. And that's good enough for most people.
So if you're listening to this now, what we're saying is use these techniques because they work, but you're not going to get 100% closing ratio. There are always going to be times still that you're just not going to develop that rapport. You're not going to be in the right state of mind. All you want to do is, like Ian says, if you can increase your ratios, then it's working for you. Now, Ian, let's speak about some of the other sort of things. I would say maybe more physical and body language. What about furniture and room layout, that kind of thing? Does NLP come into that at all?
Yes, it does. The first thing that I find, being a technical guy, I often sell to techie people as well, people like yourself. You've got your computer here and you love the technology. A lot of techie people like computers. They like to have their notebook, laptop computers. That can be very, very important with how you use those in the room. For example, if you're the salesperson and you've got your fancy laptop with your latest sexy software and you're looking at that and the person is on the other side of the computer, they're looking at the back of the PC, are you matching or are you mismatching?
Mismatching.
You're mismatching 100% because you're looking at all these bright colours. You're engaged in them because they're interesting to look at, and you've got a fixation of attention on all of this stuff, and you might be tapping away at the keys. And the prospect, he or she is going to feel completely alienated. So if you're using a laptop as part of your presentation, which isn't always a good idea, by the way, because some people aren't that techie, so if they're not techie, and you might find this, you might just casually drop in the conversation, so what do you like with computers? And if the prospect goes, I absolutely hate computers, hate the damn things, then you say, okay, right, and you leave your PC in your case. You don't even get it out, because the instant you get it out, you're mismatching. But if the person says, yeah, I love them, then okay, no problem. Behavioral flexibility, one of the 5 principles again. You just switch gear and you end up giving the presentation with the computer. And now it's very straightforward. So you're looking at the same thing. Make sure that the prospect is sitting on your side. So you're both looking at the same thing. So in the department called looking at the computer, you're both matching because you're both seeing the same thing almost from the same angle. So position of computer is really important.
And now it's time for a word from our sponsor. So listen up.
Hey, yes, it's me back again, Frank. I'm your sponsor, and I want to tell you about a series I've put together. It's actually been 2 years in the making. I have created the biggest online course for financial advisors. If you go and take a look at www.salesstrategiesforadvisors.com, salesstrategiesforadvisors.com, please go and take a look at our sales page there. You'll see the course has 281 videos, 106 audios, 12 ebooks, and 7 sets of scripts. And I promise you will make 10 times your investment at least in this course. There are so many ideas, every kind of strategy you can think of, new things added all the time. And for actually listening to the podcast, you can actually get 50% off the course. Please don't tell anyone about it. But if you go in to the checkout where it says coupon code All you do is type in 50OFF, 50 off, and you will immediately get a 50% off the course on the one-off payment. Or, of course, you can opt to pay $29 a month. So, hey, this is Frank. I look forward to seeing you the other side and enjoying my online course. And now, let's get back to our recording.
Let's talk about notepads. Chances are, if you're not using the computer to make notes during a presentation, chances are you're going to be getting a notepad. You have a notepad. Your prospect doesn't have a notepad. You're holding a pen. Your prospect is not holding a pen. Are you matching or mismatching? Again,
Mismatching.
you're mismatching. But you've got to mismatch if you're going to record the information. So here's the thing. How are you going to make the mismatching as limited as possible so that you're somehow sending the signal that we're kind of the same? Again, if you hold the angle of the pen so that you're sitting next to the pen and the pad so that you're sitting next to each other, you're both viewing the same thing. A lot of people, when they make notes, they make the mistake of holding the pad at an angle so that the prospect can't see what's being written. You can see what's being written, they can't. Mismatching. And also, overtly, it tends to encourage the prospect to think, what did he just write about me? And so you can have that.
You know, on that one, I've had someone who's one of the best salesmen, and he learned to write upside down, and people absolutely love it.
It varies, actually, because think about it from the point of view of matching. I can write upside down, you can't. Are we matching or are we mirroring?
Yeah, I
or
suppose you're right.
mismatching, yeah?
Yeah.
See, because when people have done it to me, somebody's done it and I've gone, that's weird. He's just written something upside down. Now, so at an unconscious level, it's not even unconscious, he's screaming at me, we are different.
Right.
I'm different I'm not like you. I can do this skill that you do not have. In fact, if you want to just, while we're on this subject, because this is really important, the velocity with which the salesperson gives knowledge about their product. Because think about it, in terms of the matching department, I'm giving you a ton of information that you don't know. I know it, you don't know it. Are we matching or are we mismatching?
Mismatching again.
Yeah, now, but of course, now here's the paradoxical bit, which is quite fun. It's got to be that way.
And that's where a lot of salespeople go wrong, is where they go straight in trying to sell the product, where
Yeah.
they haven't even found out what the problems are and how they can solve it.
Yeah, and often getting the pace so we match the pace. So if you say to the client, well, what kind of product would you like? And if the prospect says, well, gee, I really don't know. I haven't thought about it. And if you jump in too fast with you want product X, or you want product X and product Y, then that's massively mismatching. And so you can just slow it down a little bit, because if the prospect is saying, well, gee, I don't know, I haven't thought about it, you slow down so you match too. So you say, well, yeah, I guess I need to have a bit of a think about what might be the right product for you. And you pause too. And then you're both in the brain mode of, we don't know, let's look around. And that can be very powerful because that builds the trust, because at an unconscious level, the prospect is going, you're going through what I'm going through, aren't you? We're kind of the same, aren't we? And they like that. It makes them feel comfortable. Of course, it's a balancing act because at the end of the day, as the salesperson, you've got to be an authority. And you have to know things the prospect doesn't know. Otherwise, why are you talking to them? So that's the point at where NLP becomes more of an art than a science, because you've got to gauge at what point you want to be in rapport and at what point you don't. Because, while we're on the subject, this can be really important. It's in therapy, which is a lot of the stuff that NLP was originally based on, there's this term called the Rapport Tunnel, which I'll explain. What that means is you're in rapport with the client if it's a therapy situation, or you're in rapport with the prospect, and you've got very, very good rapport. And what that can mean is you follow them down their track.
Would this almost be the same as empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of your client
Yes.
and seeing it from their point of view?
Yes, very similar. There's a bit of a debate as to where rapport ends and empathy begins, which is a debate I don't want to go into. But what it basically means is if the prospect is saying, I don't know, I've got doubts about this, if you have too much rapport, and in other words, you're too similar to them, and unconsciously you're very similar to them, then as the salesperson, you're going, yeah, I'm not really sure either. and they say, I've got a few doubts about this product, and you as the salesperson, you say, yeah, I've got a few doubts about this product too, and the guy says, I don't think I'm going to buy, and you as the salesperson says, yeah, I think that's right, I think you're not going to buy, and then you can end up going down this path. So the thing is, and in NLP this is called pacing and leading, you want to have enough rapport to make the connect with someone, and then once you've got the connect, then you lead them. And that's the whole point of having rapport. Rapport is not an end in itself. You have enough rapport so that you manage the conversation, so you take the conversation to the place that's the right place for you and your client. Now remember, your client or your prospect, to be a little bit nervous is normal and natural. If it's their private money, they're dealing with their hard-earned cash. If it's a corporate purchase, they're dealing with their reputation and their next promotion and all this stuff. So it's normal and it's natural for them to be a little bit unsure. So you go with that, but you've got to take them to a place where they go, okay, you've convinced me. That looks like a really good thing for me to buy. So you get away from the rapport tunnel or as you say, the over-empathy.
Right, so really just to look at what we've said over here, you've got to get that empathy, you've got to develop that rapport with them, make them feel comfortable, but you've then got to lead them on to the next step where you want them to go.
It's managing their state again. I want to come back to this thing about state because I can't put enough emphasis on it. Your job as the salesperson is to manage the state of your prospect. You do training, Frank, so that applies with training. Or if it's a sales presentation to a large group, you want them to be curious when you want them to be curious. You want them to be quiet when you want them to be quiet. And you want them to not be anxious, depressed, or fearful. So you've got to do the kind of things that make that state happen, and that means you take control. Unless, of course, you're with a prospect who wants to be in control. In which case, then you say, okay, but one of the cleverest parts about NLP is to control the conversation with the other person not knowing that you're controlling the conversation, because it is your sales call.
It's actually quite interesting because I do a lot of work with chief executive groups. And with chief executives, you can't speak at them. They like to do all the speaking.
Yeah.
So when I do a lot of work with them, I give them some information, but then I give them a chance to sit and work out solutions for themselves because that's what they like to do.
It works very well with senior managers, but it works equally with many people because a general comment you can make about human beings is the idea they love the most is the idea they thought of. And NLP can be very powerful for them thinking that your idea was their idea. I'll give you a really silly example just while it's on my mind. You know the chat show lady, Oprah...
Winfrey.
Thank you. Right, that was one. Right? That was kind of obvious, right?
Right.
I set the scene, so the only obvious thing that you could say was the name Winfrey. Now, do you really think that I didn't know her name? No. Yeah, yeah. But you'd be now. I did it very. This is a training program, so I did it very obviously. You would not believe the number of times I do things like that, and the people are leaping in, and they're thinking like as if they're running the conversation, but frankly, they've only gone the way that I wanted them to go. It's a little bit like, card tricks?
Yes.
Pick a card, any card, and the guy picks a card and he says, that was the 3 of clubs. You did all the things so that they could only pick that card. But if it was a well-executed trick, they were totally convinced they were acting out of free will. So that's why some people in NLP call it kind of conversational magic, because you're taking control of the conversation, but the person thinks that they're thinking about what they want to think about.
Right, so think about that the next time you go in developing that great rapport, but then leading them on to the next point.